Well, it was night 2 of the Democratic National Convention on Tuesday, and the Democrats, well, they went all in their bid to promote the current vice president and the Democrats' nominee for the post of the president of the United States of America, Kamala Harris. And it was an eventful night, to say the least. The night highlighted the party's past presidents, particularly Chicago's own Barack Obama, along with the former First Lady Michelle Obama. There was a cross-party appeal as the night featured a former spokeswoman of Donald Trump as well as a Republican mayor from the battleground state of Arizona. Now, we will get to what the star speakers, that is the Obamas, said and the takeaways from their speech. But what would ideally have been the driest part of the evening, the roll call, that turned into a party complete with music and several celebrity appearances. Remember, the Democrats have already held a virtual vote on August 6th that made Harris the party's official nominee, but they again held a celebratory roll call vote to reaffirm her nomination.
We can't just rely on the ideas of the past. We need to chart a new way forward to meet the challenges of today. And Kamala understands this.
Former US President Barack Obama making his case for Kamala Harris as president, while calling Donald Trump dangerous.
Bernie Sanders.
The stage was used by Democratic Party veteran Bernie Sanders to list out a progressive agenda that he said Democrats must enact if Harris and Walz take the White House.
At home right here, we must take on Big Pharma, Big Oil, Big Ag, Big Tech, and all the other corporate monopolists.
Kamala Harris made another surprise appearance, this time from a Milwaukee rally, right as she was reaffirmed as the Democratic nominee following the state-by-state roll call at the DNC.
And I thank everyone there and here for believing in what we can do together. We are so honored to be your nominees.
The voting took place with a DJ and a light show in the United Center Arena. Big names from the entertainment industry, such as rapper Lil Jon and film director Spike Lee, made surprise appearances.
Of the United States of America!
Meanwhile, second gentleman Doug Amos paid tributes to his wife Kamala when party delegates met at the DNC.
Kamala rises to the occasion, and she did it for me and our family. And now that the country needs her, she's showing you what we already know. She's ready to lead.
All eyes will now be on Kamala Harris as she takes the DNC stage on Thursday to deliver her much-awaited speech. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report for NDTV Word.
Now, speaking about the Obamas, and we'll come to Michelle Obama in just a bit, Barack Obama, he closed the second night of DNC with a rousing endorsement of Kamala Harris and warnings about Trump returning to office. The former president, he warned about the danger of polarization and heralded the fight that lies ahead. As far as Michelle Obama is concerned, for the first time, Michelle went there. She talked about the racism that she and former President Barack Obama experienced during their 8 years in the White House. She talked about the attacks that were often perpetuated by Donald Trump, who what she called is a conspiracy theory about the birthplace and presidential eligibility of the first black president.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamal. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on. The other day I heard someone compare Trump to the neighbor who keeps running his leaf blower outside your window every minute of every day. Now, from a neighbor, that's exhausting. From a president, it's just dangerous.
America, hope is making a comeback.
Michelle Obama brought the House down with her speech at the Democratic National Convention in her hometown of Chicago.
My girl, Kamala Harris, is more than ready for this moment.
The former U.S. First Lady, who recently lost her own mother, leaned on the words of Harris's late mother.
She'd often tell her daughter, don't sit around and complain about things, do something.
Do something became a battle cry for the Democrats in the audience as she rallied the crowd ahead of her husband's headlining speech. Michelle Obama also took several subtle jibes at Donald Trump and said that he did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. In fact, in a reference to Trump's much derided comment about undocumented migrants taking black jobs, here's what the former First Lady said.
Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs? See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black.
Michelle called Kamala one of the most qualified people ever to run for president, but she took another veiled swipe at Donald Trump and his insinuations that Kamala Harris and other Democrats were not real Americans.
Kamala Harris is more than ready for this moment. She is one of the most qualified people ever to seek the office of the presidency. No one has a monopoly on what it means to be an American. No one.
The former First Lady, upon her return to her hometown of Chicago, remains one of the most popular and powerful galvanizing voices in the Democratic Party, despite her long-standing dislike for highly partisan politics. But she has sought to energize fence-straddling Democrats to turn out in November in the speech, turning the phrase "do something" into a call and response chant. Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.
Now, something interesting is happening at the DNC, and that is the presence of a number of high-profile Republican speakers who are supporting Kamala Harris. There were prominent Republican voices echoing in the arena, including the former Trump White House press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, former Illinois U.S. Rep. Adam Kinzinger, and former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. Let's take a look at this report.
While the second day of the Democratic National Convention was headlined by top party honchos such as the Obamas, there was a prominent Republican voice echoing in the arena. As former Trump White House press secretary Stephanie Grisham stepped onto the stage.
Any longer.
Grisham said that she spent holidays with the Trump family, but now she's backing Kamala Harris, adding that Trump mocks her supporters behind closed doors and has no empathy, no morals, and no fidelity to the truth.
Kamala Harris tells the truth. She respects the American people, and she has my vote. It's because, unlike my boss,
Grisham is one of several former Trump supporters and Republican voices who are addressing the convention this week.
behind a podium.
Former Trump White House national security official Olivia Troy has spoken out against her former boss. Taking to Twitter earlier this month, Troy said that she may not agree with Kamala Harris on everything, but trusts her to uphold the rule of law and provide steady leadership on the world stage. Some of the other prominent Republican names at the DNC are former Illinois U.S. Representative Adam Kinzinger and former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. Vishal Vivek for NDTV World.
Well, staying on the theme, for the people, for our future, Wednesday will focus on the theme, a fight for our freedoms, where the Democrats, they are set to highlight how Kamala Harris will work to protect the freedom of all Americans, while at the same time portraying Donald Trump as a threat to those very same principles. Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, he is expected to deliver the keynote address where he officially accepts the vice presidential nomination. Former President Bill Clinton and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are also expected to be present at the convention. And to get us more on the takeaways and what should we expect from day 3, we're joined by Patsy Vidakuswara, White House Bureau Chief, Voice of America. Patsy, we saw the kind of reception that the Obamas got. What is the mood now among the Democrats after last night, and especially after what seemed like a rally call by the Obamas?
NDTV, I cannot hear anything. If you're calling me, I'm not hearing anything from you. But right now, I can tell you that.
All right, we'll try and get Patsy Vidakuswara back. Like I mentioned, on day 3, there is a lot to expect from the convention. The theme, which is for the people, for our future. That theme on Wednesday will focus on the theme, a fight for our freedoms. In fact, let's go across to Patsy Vidakuswara, who's joining us. She's the White House Bureau Chief for Voice of America. Patsy, if you could hear me, we saw the kind of reception that the Obamas got. What is the mood now among the Democrats, especially after last night and especially after what seemed like a rally call by the Obamas there?
So I'm not able to hear clearly because there's a really bad echo, but I did hear you mention Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, and clearly those two speakers were the highlight of the night. If you look at carefully what Michelle Obama is saying, she's specifically hitting the issue of race, mentioning how Donald Trump fears Black people. She uses herself and her husband as two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be Black. That is a clear and direct attack on issues of race that has been overshadowing this whole campaign from Donald Trump. As well as Barack Obama kind of just like becoming this really effective attack dog on Donald Trump, mocking him for his whining, mocking him for being obsessed about crowd sizes, even at one point making, a joke that some people say refers to anatomy. So clearly those two speakers were the highlight of the night last night, making Democrats becoming more and more riled up and more enthusiastic for what is coming tonight, which is, some really big Democratic speakers, including Bill Clinton, that will be introducing some of the other speakers lining up towards Tim Walz, who is, of course, the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. So if you can see the whole buildup of this week, it has been a theme of unity and continuity. So this is, of course, something starting from, Jason Carter, who is the family of Jimmy Carter, to Hillary Clinton, to the Obamas. You can see that there's continuity of leadership in the Democratic Party, all supporting Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. It's very different compared to the Republican National Convention last month, where it's largely Donald Trump and his family. So those are some key themes happening here in Chicago.
Patsy, I would also like to understand what's going on the sidelines of the convention, especially we saw the shadow of Gaza. It's looming on the event as well. We saw protests and we saw arrests being made. How is this impacting the convention, these protests? And apart from the former...
Certainly, the issue of Gaza is the one issue that is becoming a sort of, not a division among Democrats, but a source of disagreement. They are united on every other issue, whether it's gun control, abortion, supporting democracy and all of that. But on the issue of Gaza, there is this group of uncommitted delegates. There's only very few of them, 30 people, who are saying, look, the people outside who are protesting, they need to have their voices heard. And what they are asking to do is for the administration, a potential Harris administration, to change their policy on Gaza in terms of supporting Israel. They're pushing for an arms embargo or at least conditioning aid to Israel. Now, clearly, that is not going to happen. We have already seen the Democratic National Party lay out their party platform on Monday, which does not mention arms embargo. I've also spoken to the Harris campaign people. I've spoken to the vice president's office saying, is Vice President Harris, should she become the next president, would she change any kind of policy from the Biden administration towards her administration on Gaza, and their answer is very clear. No, we are going to continue to support Israel. Now, I asked the delegates here, not just the uncommitted delegates, but also the other delegates who have declared themselves the ceasefire delegates. There's about 200 people who are saying that they want a ceasefire now, which is something that most of the 4,000 delegates here say they want. But these smaller group of people, they are also pushing for conditioning aid to Israel. I asked them, are they discouraged with the fact that this is not happening, at least not this week? And they are saying, no, they're not discouraged. They're hopeful. They know that this is a long-term movement. They're looking into the future, and they're going to keep the pressure on the Harris campaign and potentially the administration.
All right, Patsy, thank you very much for joining us and getting us all those details and putting everything in perspective for our viewers there. Also, we are also joined by David Cay Johnston, the American journalist and author on the show here. My first question to you at this point is the fact that, with their speeches, both Obama's, they essentially handed over the baton to Kamala Harris, especially with the slogan, "Yes, she can." How crucial do you think such messaging will be for the Harris campaign there?
Well, Barack and Michelle Obama are the best spokespeople the Democrats have. They're incredibly popular. If Michelle Obama wanted to run for president of the United States, I think it's pretty clear that she would be elected. So their absolutely strong endorsement of Kamala Harris will have a very powerful effect on the Democratic base. The real issue here in this election will be whether the Democrats can turn out enough votes in the 7 states that could go for either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, because we don't elect presidents by popular vote. We elect them through the states in something we call the Electoral College.
Right. David, Barack Obama, he often drew comparisons between himself and Kamala Harris there, saying kids with funny names do well in the United States. How do you think this will influence public opinion?
I think Kamala Harris is in a very good position to go to the White House. In less than a month, she's raised more than $500 million. Trump last month raised $139 million. There is clearly a surge among people who are tired of Donald Trump whining, complaining that he's been unfairly treated, and talking about going backwards. And one of the biggest themes you're hearing from the Democrats is we're not going back. They want to go to a new future, and one which is based on optimism, solving problems, making all of us better off, and then attacking Trump, who has promised to take control of women's bodies in terms of reproductive health and give more tax cuts to America's billionaires and large corporations. And that's not a very selling argument right now.
Absolutely. And lastly, it wasn't really expected, but then you never know in politics. Michelle Obama, she talked about racism that she and Barack Obama faced while he was in office. And it's important to know that she and Barack Obama have stayed away from this discourse largely. What do you feel prompted her to go there?
Well, the fact is that there is a great deal of racism in America. There are a lot of people who recognize this and try to address it. And there are people who want to, as one of the speakers said last night, I think it was Barack Obama, tell Black people, people from India, Latinos, go back to your place. They want to have a white male dominant society. And the Democrats are pushing back against that because it's simply not broadly popular. There's certainly a minority of Americans who really seriously want that, but they're a minority. And by calling out this issue, the Democrats are trying to broaden support for Kamala Harris. Well, Donald Trump, whom I've covered for 36 years, longer than anyone else, and wrote about him becoming president in 1988, Donald keeps simply focusing on his base, not on attracting a broader range of supporters.
And one final word from you, David, on especially on the fact that abortion and the right to choose, they have been like the recurring theme throughout the past 2 days at the convention. How is it driving the Harris's campaign, and how important an issue do you think is it going to be moving forward?
Well, I think after getting rid of the Donald Trump era with his doom and gloom, reproductive rights and freedom are the #1 issue. There have been 7 states with votes about reproductive rights, some of them very conservative states. They've all voted to ensure and protect the rights of women to control their own bodies. One of the things Trump supporters are proposing is to ban all contraceptives, condoms, IUDs, birth control pills. That's clearly not going to be a popular position, especially with anybody who's in their reproductive years. But they're not backing away from that. They're trying to complicate it, but they're not backing away from it. So I think establishing a national right to control your own body for women is a very much a winning issue. It will turn people out at the polls. And of course, that's what matters. Who actually shows up November 5th to cast a ballot?
All right, wonderful insights there from David Cay Johnston. Thank you very much for joining us on NDTV. And for the first time since a failed assassination attempt on the former President Donald Trump is set to hold his first outdoor rally in North Carolina. Now, security measures, they are being boosted for the afternoon rally, which is scheduled at an aviation museum in Asheboro, North Carolina, including bulletproofing the glass surrounding the Republican nominee's podium. The Secret Service, it had recommended Trump not to hold outdoor events after the agency failed to protect presidents and candidates, failed to stop a gunman who fired at him from a rooftop at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, injuring Trump in the ear and leaving one person in the crowd dead. Trump is set to hold his first outdoor rally post his assassination attempt in North Carolina. Well, that's all we have for you. Keep watching NDTV.